Welcome to Playing with Fire, the podcast for people who are ready to custom build their love.
We're talking about non-monogamy, however you design it, as an individuation opportunity.
Want to leave the default and make your life spectacularly you? You're in the right place.
Hey, Jolie.
Hey, we're here.
We are here, and we have been recently talking about envy, and we just got some questions about partner envy of your partner versus
Ooh.
envy of, people out in the world and
Right.
metamours, but actual envy of your partner.
I see this a lot, actually. I see this a ton. And often it goes sort of unnoticed, right? Because it can get hidden
And hidden behind
behind
jealousy,
some
perhaps?
jealousy. Yeah, exactly. It can also get hidden behind just other big emotions that come up, anger, disappointment. It can just get hidden. But I think it's a great thing to dig into and recognize fully. So, yeah. So let's refresher then. I love a good definition. Envy. Simplest definition I have for envy is longing to be what someone else is or have what they have. I think of the easier kind of envy is usually to have what they have, right? If I want to have what they have, I may be able to obtain that, right? If it's some material good or even some position or whatever, I might be able to have what they have.
Yeah.
Until we start talking about relationships,
right? Because you have good reason to envy me because I have you as a partner, but you only have me.
You're a great partner. But I do not have someone with the particular knack, the breadth of knowledge, but also the particular knack for digging in and like hauling stuff out.
Right.
Like I do a lot of excavating with you.
Yep.
And sometimes I'm like, oh my God, please do that for me. And crickets. Yeah, crickets. I suppose. I'll give you that one. That said, you do a lot of other things. And you should you should be super envious of me for the bajillion of things. But
so this brings us to very quickly to the idea of compartmentalized envy versus like holistic envy. In order to be envious of me, you have to look at just one piece.
Which is kind of how envy works, right? The idea of envy is that we're comparing something, right? Like the core of envy is that I'm comparing and I'm finding myself at a lack, whether I'm feeling like a lack of a quality in myself or a lack of access or potential or havingness of something else. There's a lack. And in that comparison is often like a breaking down into parts that we talked about in an earlier episode about it being pretty dangerous because
how do you compare two people?
Right. Exactly.
How? Yeah.
But when I hear about partner envy, I am usually hearing from someone who is, and they may not even realize that this is what they're feeling, but they're envious of their partner's either access to other partners, their partner's ease of dating, often envious of the situation that their partner happens to have found themselves in. Maybe their partner has just found like just the right type of partner for this phase of their life, whether that is a sexual partner, a friendship partner, a person who just gets them in a particular way or who wants to explore a particular part of their sexuality or a partner who loves traveling with them. Finding someone who just fits into a particular slot and being envious of even if you get a handle on the jealousy and you're like, I'm good. I'm not worried that my relationship is going to be interrupted. And yep, I've got a pretty good check. I'm not envious of my metamour. I feel like I feel like I'm in good relationship with them or also I feel neutral toward them. But damn, I wish I had what my partner has, even if I don't want the same thing for myself. And that's where it gets tricky for me.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, because I also see it happen with people who are, say, in a mono-poly relationship. In other words, one person identifies as polyamorous, like at their core. That's what they identify as. And the other is like, I'm monogamous. And so they're partnered and they're working with that. And I hear from people all the time, they're like, I feel monogamous. I don't want other partners, but also I'm envious of the attention my partner is getting from others. I'm envious of the way that they can move so easily through this process. I'm envious that they even want this multiplicity since the multiplicity is available. I kind of now wish I wanted it, or I want it to feel more fair. And now we're back to the concept of fairness.
That's
what is fairness exactly?
Yeah.
If I don't want the same things that you want, why do I feel like it's unfair if you have the things I want?
Yeah. Well, I think that,
But we do, because humans are messy.
but we do. And for myself, that's one of the ways I detect when my fairness alarm has gone off, is when I start reaching towards something I don't actually want, just to satisfy fairness. Like that, if I'm reaching towards something that I don't want in our relationship, it pretty much always tracks back to some fairness
Yeah.
issue. Like, I think it needs to be fair. And honestly, it usually comes in sort of unconsciously. I don't notice that I'm feeling a fairness issue.
Yeah, most people don't come to me with the word fair. They'll
Right.
often use, it just feels imbalanced. It just feels like a little out of sync. It feels like we're just not quite on the same page, or I'm getting the fuzzy end of the lollipop, or it just feels like, I mean, we could boil all of that down to, it feels unfair, at least to part of me.
Yeah.
And this is where I think parts language can be helpful, because you may have parts of you that are on board and are like, yep, this is good. I know that my partner and I are different people and we want different things. And so great, they have the things they want. It's still, there are less mature parts of us as well. There are little kid aspects, and there are entitled teenage brat aspects of us, and they may have big problems with unfairness.
Yeah. I mean,
in me, there's definitely both of those.
Entitlement is a huge contributor to the concept of fair.
Yeah.
This isn't fair. I'm not getting what I deserve.
Ooh, say more.
There it is. I mean, that's now that I have said that statement, I was like, how do I say more? If the idea of fairness is that everybody deserves, like, I deserve everything you get too, some sort of balance like that, like it's out of balance, out of sync. Okay, so let's sync ourselves up. It means that I deserve to get the same things you get,
or some sort of equal
or some
amount.
But no
when we're
matter
talking
how you
about,
say it, the word deserve is entitlement.
And this is now let's go back and just make sure we're dialed into the actual topic at hand. So in the context of a partnership, no matter how many people you have in your polycule or your relationship constellation or whatever, any two people find themselves in a dyad of, do I feel like there should be a level of fairness present here? And that can absolutely happen with partnerships that were never even designed to be egalitarian, right? Sometimes we come into a relationship. I came into a relationship with you and very quickly learned that I was considered a secondary partner.
Massively asymmetrical.
But it's light years ago. We didn't even know what we were talking about. It was like almost 16 years ago. But in that time, as soon as I knew that there was going to be an imbalance. I knew that there was going to be unfairness. And that did not quiet the parts of me that felt profound envy. But I also didn't know what to do with the envy. The envy I had of you, for instance, being in a nesting partnership that just like other people understood, of you having like the social protection of monogamy, of you having the ability to just hold that partner's hand in public, of you having dual incomes for that household, of you, like, like all these things that could just, they made more sense in your life. I wished I had those. And now I look at my life and I think, yeah, our life is incredibly unequal, but I don't feel the same ping of the fairness. And yet, even a little shift of my mood, if other things in life are not feeling good,
Oh, yeah.
that will just like rise right up. So it makes me think about like, what's my overall like threat load? What's my overall stress load? What's going on in my life? Because yeah, we have massive asymmetries and they feel great.
Yeah,
I don't,
that's
it's all fine.
on purpose.
But when I get stressed, I feel, and I don't know that I always notice it as envy, and I'm looking for it. So if you don't notice envy in yourself, just give yourself a little bit of credit, because I am actively looking for envy and jealousy in myself all the time. It's hard to notice, but yeah, when I envy something that you have, some freedom, some sense of autonomy, like something that's present in your life.
The way my job ends at 5:00.
Ooh, that's a big one in our house.
Right?
My job is incredibly more complicated and messy. And I like it that way, but also I do. You wake up and you know exactly what's on your work plate.
Yeah.
Mine's often a little chaotic.
So, okay, so there are these sets of things that you can feel envy about, and I am your partner. Okay, now what?
Yeah, what do I do? What do I do?
Yeah.
So let's talk about a couple of, case examples. I have one really common example that shows up in my office. People they came into non-monogamy with a level of desire mismatch. They wanted different amounts or types of sex. And so they decided to open their relationship as a way of dealing with that difference, those different wants. But then once we actually start acting on it, often a whole new layer of righteousness or that sense of unfairness or confusion comes up. And I always have to ask people, like, get back down to, like, can you actually tap into your wants? Can you touch? Remember, we started from a place of there being desire mismatch. And the big point of departure for people is usually there's some people who come in and they're in a couplehood and they are experiencing desire mismatch, and they both agree on that. They're like, yep, this is a mismatch. We're not a good fit in this way. Let's open to deal with that. And they both feel like, yeah. But even more common, I see people who one person is not thrilled with that. They would like to maintain the sexual relationship they have, and opening is okay with them, but it does feel like a bit of a sacrifice in order to get a need met that they would rather meet with their current partner. And that, I'm just saying, it adds layers of nuance to what it feels like when let's walk that imagined couple out many months. And as they start dating or they start going on sexual adventures, they're going to have different experiences. One of them is likely to have sooner experiences. Just you're unlikely to stay perfectly matched in pace and tempo.
Yep.
One of them is likely to have some more satisfying or less satisfying, experiences. It's incredibly common for one person to really thrive in the dating app world and one to be like, I hate dating apps, not even doing it. I'm only going to meet people organically because that just sucked for me.
That was one of the first things I thought of as a source of envy in partners who are opening.
Yeah. And so it brings up all these feelings. And I often see these feelings talked about as frustrations or angers, that are directed at the symptom, but underneath it is this envy. And it can be hard to admit our envy because now we're admitting something that we lack. And when we're talking about our dating, this means we have to face the fact, like, if I am struggling with dating or I'm not finding any matches, like, when I go through dating droughts, Yeah, I mean, that's not fun. I don't enjoy like talking about that or admitting it. It doesn't feel good. So on top of the feeling itself is, okay, now I'm envious of you for having an easier time of it, or what I perceive as an easier time,
Right.
or you found a good fit. And now I also feel bad. And now I can't talk to the person who I'm used to talking about these
Hmm.
things with, or it feels like I'm harping on it. It does tend to create a real schism, a real sense of like, we're not, this just doesn't feel good. It's like grit in the gears.
Yeah. Unaddressed or unresolved envy uh, becomes resentment pretty quick.
Yeah. And this is actually why I think it's important that we name the envy.
Yeah.
Just like when we're talking with jealousy, avoiding it or, trying to paint over it with a prettier brush, I haven't seen that work out. Facing the fact that you feel the envy and it's real and it's operating in your relationship, being witnessed in that is part of the medicine. It's part of what there is to do. Um, if you're experiencing that, I mean, there are other things we need to talk about, like, well, what does it mean to be in envy? Like, what does that feel like in your body? How would you like to be supported? Is there
Hmm.
something you ask, like, okay, what can we do for each other? Because frequently I see people overfunction either intentionally or subconsciously and sabotage their own relationships
Right. I might
because they want to
notice
get
your
back
envy
on the
even
same.
if you don't say
Yeah.
anything about it. And yeah, in order to um if I as the source of as the source of the envy, um if I don't like that feeling, I'm going to suppress my activities.
I
And
definitely think I have seen you do this.
this
Suppress
isn't
your
really
dating activity.
theoretical. Yeah,
Suppress
totally.
your dating
Like, no,
activities
I don't
because
like the feeling of being envied, so I'm
yeah,
not going to do the things. I'm not going to highlight the things. Of course, it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, I suppressed my dating activities just in case, more or less. But yeah, I would pull it down so that we didn't have to deal with envy anymore.
right.
That's that's painting it over. That is sweeping it under the rug. It's
Delaying
not
it as
it's
well.
delaying it. It's not actually changing the nature of this part of the relationship.
Yeah, and at core, it doesn't actually address the thing that I was experiencing.
Right.
So in that
Mhm.
scenario, I was experiencing like, well, you were having, yeah, you had a set of qualities that were very attractive to the type of people who you wanted to date on apps. It resulted in a set of circumstances, right? And you have a way of moving in group sex environments that, like, yeah, it just worked in that scenario. And so I got to see that up close. You pulling back from that did not provide me with more.
Right. Yeah.
And I knew that, but and I see people struggle with this. My naming the envy curtailed your activity, but that wasn't actually what I wanted.
Right. No.
And it didn't get me what I actually wanted. And it, it wound up creating this sense that, oh, I can't talk to you about my envy. I
Right.
can't do that
Yep.
because if I do, you will. I mean, you are the person who I have been in races with you and felt you slow down next to me, like actual literal foot races. I don't enjoy that. I don't want I don't want somebody to, let me win a foot race. I also don't want to watch you pull back. But if you're in the throes of envy and your partner pulls back, you might actually really like it.
Yep. It might
And
work.
and this is where our
Work.
long-term, I mean, we've been doing this for a long time, so I have the curse of knowledge that, yeah, it didn't work. It didn't get me what I wanted. It slowed down our process of like working through what comes up.
And we have a commitment to growth over comfort. And how I responded to that was in opposition.
Yeah, it was
It
out of
was headed
alignment
toward
with
the
our
comfort of oh good, now I'm not experiencing the envy.
yeah.
But But by doing that, I eliminated the possibility of our relationship growing, each of us growing as individuals and our relationship growing.
It also put me in an awkward position that I didn't realize. So I didn't ask you to do that. It's just
Nope.
it
No,
was
you
your
didn't.
response.
Mm-hmm.
But because I treat my life as an experiment. So I was like, oh, I'm my new envy experiment. But
Yeah.
it did have a very unintended side effect of, so since that time, I have had what could only be described as vastly more success than you
Yes.
on dating apps,
Yeah.
and generally in group scenes as well. Though mostly because I'm extremely forward. And your having pulled back means that I am hyper vigilant to
Right.
you being sensitive.
So now you've got
And
a
then
distraction.
do I have to now, do I owe you for that? Like, what does that do? What is the balance of the power? And like, was that you sacrificing something for me? Do I owe you for it? And how does this work?
Yeah.
I would love to say that we're not keeping tabs in our relationship, but at the very least, at a subconscious level, many of us are, and many of us are also actually keeping tabs.
Yep.
Like, if you've got this justice piece of you that's awake,
Yeah.
and most of us do, if there's this fairness piece that's like, hey, yeah, but it just should feel more fair than this. Well, you probably are keeping tabs at some level. And so what does that mean? It's because the long game would mean, wow, okay, now does that mean I have to pull back forever? Does that mean I always, like, what circumstance, what actually created that? And what's the balance? What do we do now? The more advantageous thing to do would have been to move forward knowing that, yeah, I process my feelings. It's a lot. It's extra. It was not going to be simple to process that envy, but it would get us to a spot where hopefully we would understand what it's like to be living as two different individuals, having different experiences, different luck, different wonderful and horrible circumstances at the same time. And that's just real.
That's just real.
Always be real.
So what I hear is that the answer to my question of what now is talk about it. Bring it up. Let
And
it
not
be
just with your partner.
real. No, absolutely not. Yeah. Talk about it and let it be part of let it be the real part of your life that it is.
Yeah.
And engage with it.
Naming envy, just like naming jealousy, is a key aspect of working with it. And I mean, envy is listed as one of the 7 deadly sins. It's not like, it does not feel good to name envy for most people. They're not proud of it. And so I can understand why we would shove it aside. And now put yourself in the, polyamory context or relationship anarchy context, and it can especially feel like I'm not supposed to
not
feel
supposed
this.
to. I'm
I'm
good
bad.
poly
I'm
person
failing
wouldn't
at it.
do this.
Yeah.
And that's not how that works. We have our feelings. They have all kinds of value, as we've talked about in previous episodes, of like finding out what's important to you, finding out what you want. Like they have great value, but not if you ignore them.
Right. And so how can I align my actions with my values? My feelings, my emotions, my sensations won't always align with my values.
Right.
Especially if I'm literally going through a growth period where I'm trying to feel my way through this, process what it's bringing up, deal with the fact that, and it takes time. I mean, I really wish if I could go back to that period of our life, I wish that I had seen what you were doing, gotten ahead of it, and really pushed to say, push myself even if I needed to process that material with my friends and with the groups I belonged to at the time, so that we could maintain the forward motion of, wow, we got to feel our way through this.
Yeah.
Because this is some of our most important differentiation work.
Yeah.
And we can't even get to our individuation until we have a good sense of our differentiation.
Yep.
Let's come back, reaffirm. Differentiation means I know my needs, wants, thoughts, feelings as distinct from my partner's. I can share those in the face of their discomfort, and you can share yours with me in the face of my discomfort. Not like intentionally harming and poking, but like we're sharing who we actually are. I can see who you are. That's differentiation. That's what we need to be able to practice on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
To be
And
able to really let ourselves unfold into our individuation journey.
I was clearly not very well differentiated back then. I mean, I'm
No,
still working on it. I always will work on it, but
me
that
too.
was
Because I let it happen. I definitely I didn't stand up for my principles
yeah.
in that case.
And I want to circle back quickly to something that you said about feelings and values.
Mhm.
And I want to say that if our feelings always aligned with our values, we wouldn't need the concept of values. We would just have feelings.
That's
So
true.
they are distinct. They are by definition distinct because your values are sort of the things that are visible because you believe in them, but they don't match your feelings. That's
I
what
really
they
appreciate
are.
that. Yeah, yeah. So I want to also just revisit. There was another scenario that I
Mhm.
posed. So there's also the couple who's coming out of monogamy specifically, who is they're struggling with envy because one of them is mono, one of them is
Mhm.
poly. Like we're just using that terminology to
As a broad
obviously
brush.
there's all
Yeah.
kinds of nuances to how you might describe yourself in there, the words you might use, but from that perspective, you know, it's really easy for the person who has delved in, like they understand that the concept of polyamory is open to them. Their partner wants to be open. They know that the possibility is there, but they're like, I don't want that. I don't want that for me. I'm here, I'm learning, I'm doing this. And I see it all the time. First off, those people often feel like they are the only person who's experiencing this
Mhm. Mhm.
because it is not a huge demographic of people who find themselves deeply committed to the work of shifting paradigms into a paradigm that allows for multiplicity while also maintaining their monogamous identity and maintaining their own commitment to this is what I actually want for me. Like standing in that space, that's a big deal. And they don't often have very many people to talk to about it. And yet I wish they did, because there is this core feeling that I see come up where there's this sense of unfairness is coming up over and over again, and they often feel like they're failing at the work. They're
Yeah.
failing at this growth because it's still hard. When in fact, from the outside, it's so easy to see that they're making progress in the goal they've set for themselves of increasing their ability to experience their partner as polyamorous and experience themselves as truly still loved and in belonging. And it's just such deep work. And often this takes quite a long time because they're having to learn it. They're learning it intellectually, but then they have to let their body learn it, right? They have
Yeah.
to let their
Yeah.
attachment system learn it. They have to
Yeah.
allow their values to then suffuse into their felt sense of being in the world. And I'll say, for some people, that exploration leads them to realize, no, this really isn't a fit. I wanted this to work because philosophically I can get on board, but it doesn't actually work for me. And that is fine too. Sometimes that's what we learn while we try to figure out what we want and what we can do. But what I really just want to drive home is the idea, like it's the growth process, the trajectory of this. What I'm seeing in my practice, in the thousands of conversations I've had with non-monogamous people, is it generally takes 3 to 5 years to shift a paradigm. 3 to 5 years to shift a paradigm. Most people have this almost unnamed hope, reality, imagined thing that it will take 3 to 5 months.
Yeah.
And it will just and these feelings will have resolved, and there won't be this sense of envy. There won't be this sense of unfairness, because they don't want it. Like they don't want to be in envy because they literally don't want what their partner has.
Right.
So the envy feels so strange and conflicting. But the progress that I witness from the outside is substantial. It's just that you have to be able to zoom out and see the bigger picture. And it's really hard to do that from inside your lived experience.
Yeah, it is.
I give so much credit to people who stick out there learning and who also recognize that the pacing of their exploration may need to be different. The support system that they have in place. I mean, I'm lucky. I usually get to know people in the context of the year of opening, which is automatically
It is
building
its
a
own
year
support
of support
system.
with infinite. We have community meetings infinitely after that as well. So there's already this built-in support for them. So I'm getting to see them in that, and that helps me see like, oh, right, there's the long-term trajectory. But if it's envy, if under that pain of, I don't know, should I stay in this mono-poly situation? If underneath that is some envy about your partner's experience, their access to partners, their just the new juicy experiences they're having, I really want to circle back, come back into like, what are your wants then? What are
Yeah.
yours? We see what theirs are. What are yours? If
And
yours aren't that, if you start getting myopic and start feeling into like, well, I know I don't want that. Yeah, that's not going to help you move into joy at all.
yeah.
I need to come back to, what do I want? Do I have that in my life? Or has my life become all about trying to manage or deal with what my partner's doing? Is
And
this a time for me to really like move back into, oh, I need to focus some of this energy on myself
right.
so that I can have an experience rather than not have the mono experience that I thought I needed once upon a time.
And right, the envy, in particular, if I feel envious about something that I don't actually want, that's a perfect opportunity to start peeling it back and finding out what want is actually at the bottom of that envy. Because there is something there, but it's not what it looks like. Well, I don't actually want
Yeah, if I don't want
to
more
have
partners,
more partners, but I want what they have. Wait, so you start asking yourself the question, okay, what's behind that?
yeah,
As you've said before, like, okay, what's under that? What is it? Oh, it's and I'm not as good at this as you, but you could get all the way down to, oh, I want more community. Well, I
yeah,
don't need to be polyamorous to get more community. There are lots of ways to do that. But I'm watching someone get it through polyamory. I might just be envious of it
yeah, of the
in that
community.
context. But you can start learning about yourself, like, oh, I this is a want I have for more community.
And I have also seen the envy have like right down at its roots an envy for they have an envy, what you named this at our opening. They're envious that they don't have themselves as a partner. Like they wish that they had a partner
Mm.
who was willing to be monogamous for them,
Oh
right? And so now we
yeah,
kind of loop
right.
back around
Yep.
and right, but you don't. You have this partner who's in front of you. The reality is some of us really do. We want monogamy, and that's fine. That's great. I love that for you. And sometimes what we find out through our exploration is that we're no longer compatible with a particular partner. That is the reality of being alive. Sometimes we are no longer compatible with a particular partner, and deciding what to do with that. Only you can decide what to do with that feeling. And as we wrap this up, I think it's worth noting that another place that we hear envy talked about quite a lot is the difference between women, cisgender women especially, and men um, on dating apps.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of envy. You never point this envy at me. Which I'm surprised. Like there is a distinctly different experience of being on an app.
Yep.
I am apt to have thousands of likes on any of my profiles, and you're apt to have dozens.
Right.
That is a
That is a
typical
difference.
experience. And I see a lot of envy come up, and then a lot of talk about, well, how do we make this fair? How could this be fair? And I dated somebody once for a little while who shared with me my favorite phrase about this, which is, yep, if you are a cis woman, the odds are good, but the goods are odd. And what he was getting at was that, I mean, there is, you could also be envious of the fact that I have to weed through a lot of
Yep.
people who don't actually read my profile, don't actually even look to see that I'm polyamorous. Don't act like they're not paying attention. They're swiping. But
and so all of this links together to one piece of a common thread through envy is taking a narrow view. Often, if you back up far enough, you find out that the thing that you were envying, even if the thing itself is something you want, you don't necessarily want to wade through what you need to wade through to get it. And so, for example, I could get, you get all these more likes on your dating app, which means you have to wade through all those likes to find somebody.
Yeah.
I don't see that actually as a benefit.
It is different.
It's a different set of problems.
Experience.
And backing out and seeing that it's a different set of problems, a different experience than.
And at the same time, I think we have to give credit to the fact that it's a different set of problems. You still have a problem. In this scenario, you still have a problem, which is likely that you're struggling to actually find dates, to have the experiences, which can also create an issue because if I'm trying to move through with a particular partner through a process of transitioning into non-monogamy, and I'm getting to have a bunch of experiences, even if they're low quality, even if I hate reading through it, I'm still getting to have the experiences. And you may be like, oh, okay, once every 6 months, I'm getting to have an experience.
It slows down the process.
We're experiencing then each other as having like, oh, these are very different experiences. And I'm also learning differently about what I experience of jealousy inside of this. So now I'm envying your ability to fully experience your jealousy. I literally have found myself envying you because you get to feel all the way through your jealousy much more frequently. And I have fewer experiences of that these days because you aren't as interested in dating. And so I get it with other partners, but that doesn't have quite as strong a ping because you are my nesting partner, you're my anchor partner.
Right.
So it doesn't have the same pull. It's a weird thing. I judge myself as that is a weird thing to be envious about. But here I am with the character for jealousy tattooed on my back and all this written material on jealousy. I'll be the weirdo who just longing for more jealousy in my life, apparently.
You do like a puzzle.
I do like a good puzzle.
And you like to grow. You like to investigate yourself. So
right up till it hurts, and then I'll complain about it, just like
and then you'll
else.
complain about it, just like everybody. Yeah.
I really appreciate this conversation. So we will link back. There was an original episode on envy where we're talking about envy deeply. This is all, of course, related to jealousy as well. Envy and jealousy are often deeply interwoven, often felt at the same time. It can be incredibly challenging to tease apart what's going on and to feel through what is more important about the emotional content. So if you're looking for more information on jealousy, I have tons and tons of episodes across a broad spectrum of podcasts as well as published materials. My dissertation's available to read for people who really want to nerd out about jealousy, but also more recent studies that are available. You can go find those at joliehamilton.com/jealousy resource. There's no one right way to design your relationship. And lots of people, actually about 25%, according to a recent national survey, are interested in some type of open relationship. But how do you know if you are ready to open up happily? Not everyone is, and that's no problem. I've got a 60-second quiz that will give you the answer. And even better, you'll walk away with your next step, whether you're good to go or not so much when it comes to opening up. And this is no BuzzFeed nonsense. I personally designed this quiz from my years of academic research. Go to joliequiz.com. That's JOLIQUIZ.com and find out if you're ready to open up happily and what to do if you are or if you're not.